Hi, Mandy. Good morning. Well, good evening for you in New Zealand. It's great to see you here. You,
Oh, sorry.
yeah, it's we're colleagues, longtime colleagues in both in transactional analysis and in consultancy, really. So I'm thrilled to speak to you about change. As you know, this is in honor of the 40 years Intact Academy, where we teach professional coaches and consultants and leaders to make agile business innovation. And I'm delighted you're here and we're willing to speak to us.
Oh, sorry. It's wonderful to be here for your anniversary. What an achievement. Yeah, really remarkable and what a success. So it's lovely to be here and be part of this for you, and for me. Like it's a real joy.
Oh.
Yeah, to be part of it.
So
Yeah.
maybe you could start with saying something about the kind of work you do at the moment in organizations or around change.
Mm, mm. Yeah, so most of my work in the last 15 years or more has been in transformation and digital change. But when I think of transformation, I think of it in terms of, perhaps from a business case perspective, where you look at what the benefits are, like what's the reasons for doing the change, and how you measure those. So I've become quite a specialist in that niche area. But it's to me why I really like it is because it gives meaning to change. Like it's like the WIFM, like what's in it for all of us to do this. Um, so that to me sets the scene for it. It also sets the scene around the comms, the communications as well. Um, so if I think of transformation as a circle, I think of it in terms of the benefits or return on investment, and it can be for all, for all stakeholders. Then we look at the change management, the impact analysis, um, the stakeholders, um, and then the communications goes through all of that, and then the training and learning in terms of the adoption side of things. So, yeah, all of my work has involved, well, I guess probably just about everybody's change work nowadays involves some digital or IT component. And I found myself being part of that, but also part of the human factor side of it, of taking people on the journey.
Yeah.
Because you can implement the most fantastic IT or digital system in the world, but as we know, if you don't bring the people along, uh, it won't happen. And I've done a lot of lessons learned research and reviews. I do it for most pieces of work that I'm involved in, and that's a consistent theme, is
So
bringing people along. Yeah.
I understand it. Also, your doctorate is around this, or your research is really around this.
Yeah, that's right. And it was um, it honed in on, as we know, with doctorates, they're an inch wide and a mile deep. So mine focused on group memory and learning in teams, and which I found fascinating. Well, you have to find things fascinating when you do a doctorate, don't you? It's a lot of effort. Um, but it was all about efficiencies, and it was really fascinating about what people do remember in groups. Yeah.
What's the outcome of that research?
Well, for me, my research was there were three types of um, ways people remembered, or what they remembered. One was a group that people were absolutely certain about what they remembered, and then there were other people that weren't quite sure. They weren't quite sure that they'd remembered things correctly. And then there was another group that were very much about the structure of what had happened and how that helped them remember things. So it was, sorry, didn't we do this, then that, then decide this, then that. So in terms of, linking that into structure hunger, in terms of our, a TA concept and theory, it was fascinating. Yeah.
Did
Yeah.
did that affect the way you introduced change, certainly around communication?
Oh, 100%. And also around looking at multiple ways of collecting and keeping information, actually, and the efficiencies of that. So it affected the way that I ran meetings. So, I would do a rich summary at the beginning rather than ask people what they remember, or there's always an expectation people have read everything. And what I know and my experience is that people are exceptionally busy for whatever reasons. And I found by doing a quick synopsis of last time we covered this, these decisions were made, like it just took 2 minutes. It was quite amazing how that brought everybody onto the same page and into the room, within 5 minutes. So you had everybody with you,
Yeah.
as opposed to we'll just take it that everyone's read everything. Because whether that does happen or not, I found this intervention exceptionally effective. Yeah.
Nice. Good tip. So, if do you have any examples of a successful change you've facilitated for a business?
Yeah, I've worked mainly in major government organisations, particularly. So, yeah, examples. I just have examples. So I do work with individuals in change as well. So there's lots of successful examples about that. But in terms of organisations, it's one that I did recently with the New Zealand major national health group. It was a national program being rolled out, and I was working with a small pilot group. So I have a little mantra that I say around when you're getting to MVP or wanting to test things out is, work with the willing, who are really happy to try things, test it out, give you feedback. And that also helps in terms of a whole bunch of things, like around your change management plan, the impact analysis of all different stakeholders, and the training. For me, the training is if you bring people along with you, like your champions and your super users, and if you make sure that they're representative from all different departments or business units, you will get a really good training group together, or leaders, super users. So I found that worked really well in the last piece of work that I did. The other is of when I've worked with small groups, having said that, small groups and with individuals, taking people through, how people experience change emotionally, I find is really important. So when I've worked with leaders with that, because often what happens, leaders instigate change or lead change, and they're already, if we look at the change curve, the model, they all look the same, whether it's Kubler-Ross's model or Kotter's model or the ADKAR model, etc. They all look the same. And so often leaders are at the high end, of the recycling, say, and the people that they're about to bring are only just at the beginning, So it's working with them to understand that humans go through a whole bunch of emotions around change. And it's very dependent on two things I've found. One is, has the change been something you've chosen to do? Like if you think individually, because I really like to encourage people to think about how they have coped with and managed and learnt from change in the past and how they can apply this to now. So if it is that you've decided to buy a new house and move, albeit moving can be stressful, you've chosen that. But if change is happening that you haven't chosen, there's a whole bunch of other emotions and dynamics at play. So I've found by running workshops and giving people information and working with leaders around understanding that dynamic has been really helpful.
Yeah, so there's a different change strategy, really, depending if people chose it or if it was imposed, the change.
Yeah.
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 When it's imposed, you take a lot more time to deal with the emotions around the change. Yeah.
Mm. Mm.
I'm also understanding that your process is really you identify why the change is necessary, and you really do some research on the facts that are causing this change, and then you identify super users. So the people who are pro, you work with the allies in the beginning.
Yeah, that's right. And I mean, that's the thing with it, it happens in corporates as well around, why are we investing this money to implement this new thing, right? Um, so it's, doing that from a social perspective, a financial perspective, a non-cash releasing perspective, um, outcomes, those sorts of things in the beginning, I think is really, really important because you can use that information in terms of bringing people along.
Yeah.
But also you can decide with them, like, well, how will we measure that? So how will we know that it's been a good return on investment? How will we know? I mean, and another health project that I led out across a big area here, the data analytics tell you a lot too.
Yeah.
So, you can get a lot from people and you can be close in terms of your focus groups and the leaders that you're working in or working with. But it's also good to have, multi-pronged sources of information. So, getting data analytics from, how many users are using this thing? How long are they on there for? What are they looking at when they're there? Those sorts of things is another really rich form of information that you can feed back with the group that you're working with as
Yeah.
well.
Yes, I'm hearing you really also uh, build a business case based on data as you go along as a really important lesson. So
Mm.
we're, to end this conversation, obviously not our ongoing conversation about change, but this one, uh, if people would start in this business of change, young people come in and they say, I want to be a change agent. What top 2 or 3 lessons would you give them? What would you say based on your experience?
Mm. Mm. Well, I think it's the scope. Like we hear of scope creep, right? Like in many programs, like you start off doing something and you get enthusiastic, or it can go off in all sorts of directions. So I think, as we, as TA professionals, it is all about the contract. Like what change, what is the contract? Um, and the other thing, what's the scope? What outcomes are your client looking for, and how you're going to know you've got there. The other thing is, lessons learned and all sorts of information is often sitting within the organisation or the company.
Yeah.
As people have come and gone. So I always think that's a real a gold nugget in lots of ways. Like, who's worked on this before? What information is there? Because people, in my experience, don't like things being relitigated, and they don't like being asked the same questions if they've already told somebody something, 6 months ago this, or they've already given the business analysis has already been done and somebody new comes along to do it again. So I think it is that being really mindful of relationships and what work is, honouring what work has already been done and looking at, don't reinvent a wheel.
Yeah.
Would
Yeah.
be my things. Yeah. Mm.
Well, thank you for this small snippet of your large body of experience and knowledge, Mandy.